Stephen and Jane had at least 3 sons and 4 daughters. The first son, Stephen Jr., was born around 1740 and served as a Revolutionary soldier with his brother James, our ancestor. James Arnold was born around the same time as Thomas Jefferson, who lived only a few miles away in Albemarle County, Virginia, and who in 1774 actually purchased 160 acres of land next to the Arnolds. Jefferson's purchase included the Natural Bridge, which he was known to have visited many times. It's not unlikely that he may have met or known his peer in age, James Arnold, during that time. James married Marguerite Robertson, known as Lucy, and they had 2 children, another Stephen Arnold and John Arnold, our ancestor, born around 1766. John is your 6th great-grandfather, his father James your 7th great, and his grandfather Stephen Arnold your 8th great-grandfather. All these Arnolds lived together along the James River near the Natural Bridge in Virginia for several decades. James and his brother Stephen Jr. were called to war in 1774 against the Indians. According to Kegley's Virginia Frontier, Virginia began to take alarm after many Indian attacks along the Ohio and Kanawha River, what was then called Kentucky County and is now Charleston, West Virginia, but was then part of the all-encompassing state of Virginia. Stephen and James Arnold were members of the 69-member Botetourt militia, led by Colonel William Fleming and overseen by Colonel Andrew Lewis, who also commanded the other militias in Western Virginia. According to Kegley, when it became necessary to take some action for the defense of the people in their homes, all eyes turned to the better organized militia of Botetourt County for service and leadership, quote unquote. According to one account of the battle, 2 soldiers went out to hunt one morning near the Ohio and Kanawha rivers and were fired upon by a number of Indians. One was killed. Colonel Andrew Lewis immediately ordered 300 to attack them, but they in turn were ambushed by 1,000 quote-unquote desperate savages. Andrew Lewis ordered up reinforcements while the fighting took place, never above 20 yards apart, often within 6, and sometimes close together, tomahawking one another, according to Kegley's report. 50 men were killed, 90 wounded. Such a battle with the Indians, it is imagined, was never heard of before, said one account. According to Colonel Preston's official report, the cries of the wounded without any persons or skill or anything to nourish people in their unhappy situation was striking. Andrew Lewis's brother Charles died in the battle. Those who went to high school in Roanoke, Virginia, may be interesting to know that one of the accounts of this battle, fought by the Arnolds, is an official letter sent by Andrew Lewis and William Fleming to then Virginia Governor Patrick Henry. After the war, James Arnold was awarded 1,086 acres of land on the Kentucky River as a reward for his military service. That in itself may have been enough reason to leave an established settlement and move farther into the frontier in 1782, but there may have been other motivators as well. Several histories note that Stephen Arnold, who accompanied his son James to Kentucky, believed the Arnold Valley was becoming too thick. Financial difficulties may have contributed to the desire to move farther into the wilderness, along with the fact that the name Arnold was the most infamous in the country at the time, thanks to Benedict, no relation, by the way. Or, as further generations would verify, the Arnolds may have just had an insatiable desire to continue pushing against the edges of the frontier, as history would further prove. Or maybe they just had itchy feet.